Welcome back to another video, and today we got our Stanley Cup NHL playoff predictions. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not the biggest hockey fan in the world, but every year I do a video where I predict the Stanley Cup playoffs. And typically I do watch a lot of the Stanley Cup playoffs because the NHL playoffs are always exciting. They're always good. Really, anyone can win. Hockey's a crazy sport. I mean, you'll have 4 seeds taking down 1 seeds left and right. You'll have 4 seeds, 3 seeds making the conference finals, making the NHL finals. So yeah, like I said, anything can happen. It's kind of like the MLB playoffs in that sense. But with that being said, I wanted to make sure I get you my predictions because it does start later today. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. The Jets versus the Blues, the President Trophy winner, the Winnipeg Jets. I picked them to go very far in the playoffs last year, just because their numbers looked really good last year, and it's kind of the same thing. They have the best defense in the league. Once again, they have the best goalkeeper in the league, at least is what my research is telling me. Hellebuck, watched him in the Four Nations. He was very, very, very good. And then obviously he's been good for the Jets all season. They have a really good point differential. I don't love picking them far because I've heard their goalie tends to drop performance in the playoffs. I'm going to take them over the Blues. I haven't heard much about the Blues. I don't think there's really anything to be, maybe they could lose to the Blues. I've seen some people pick the Blues, but mostly people are taking the Jets. I'm going to take the Jets. I'll say it is pretty close to. I'm going to say Jets in 6. The Blues still have a couple guys from their NHL or Stanley Cup. I don't remember when that was. That was a little bit ago, but I believe they still have some guys. But I'm going to take the Jets. I think they get over the first round hump. The Stars versus Avalanche. The Avalanche always tend to do good in the playoffs. The Stars feel like are also always pretty good. They always get in the playoffs, but they always get a tough matchup, and I think this is kind of the same thing. I'm going to take Colorado here. You got McKinnon, Makar. I know those two guys are phenomenal. And the Stars, I've heard, have a lot of injuries. They're kind of limping into the playoffs. I don't love that. So I'm going to take the Avalanche. I think numbers-wise, they look really strong as well, especially offensively. Going down here to this bottom part of the Western Conference, the Golden Knights versus the Wild. Kind of same thing with the Stars. The Wild just don't really have much to be excited about, at least from what I'm seeing. I don't really see anything. They've been dealing with a lot of injuries. I'm going to take the Golden Knights pretty easily in the series. Oh, I forgot. I'll take the Avalanche in 6 over the Stars. I will take the Golden Knights in 5 over the Wild. I don't know. I don't really see much to be excited about here. Vegas has a very solid team all around. I'm looking at some team rankings here, offense and defense. They're ranked 4th in defense, at least this website, and they're ranked 6th in offense. I think they should be able to deal with the Wild pretty easy here. Kings Oilers, we get this series every year. It feels like this is the 4th year in a row, and the Oilers have won the series 3 years in a row. I always pick the Oilers to go far. I'm going to switch it up. I think the Kings get it done. I think the Kings finally get over this Oilers hump. I think they've been playing a lot better. They have a really strong defense. They've had that for the past couple of years. But offensively, recently, I've heard they've been starting to ramp things up a little bit. I like that for the Kings. I think they're getting hot at the right time. I think if they can get some going, and the Oilers also have had some injuries, and their goalkeeping is never their strong suit, and it's once again a problem here. I think the Kings finally get over the hump. They're going to have the home ice advantage as well. I think they finally take down the Oilers. I'll say it goes. I'll say Kings in 7. I think it goes all 7 games. But I think the Kings finally get it done. Moving back up to the Atlantic Division, the Maple Leafs versus the Senators. This is an interesting one. The Maple Leafs have been very solid all season. Obviously, they have Austin Matthews. They brought in a new coach, I believe. I believe they brought in a new goalie. I'm not sure about that, but I think their goalie has been playing pretty solid this season. With that being said, I'm going to take the Senators. The Maple Leafs do this every year. They lose in upset fashion, or they just lose in the first round. They just never seem to get over the hump. If there's any year for them to do it, it'll be this year. They're the 1 seed. That usually doesn't happen. They're the heavy favorite in this one. They brought in a new coach, so I really could see Toronto winning this one. But just based off the fact that it's the Maple Leafs, they do this every year. They always lose. I'm going to take the Senators. I think they get it done. I really don't know much about the Senators, if I'm going to be honest. I think they have a pretty good defense. Um, so I'm just going to take them. Literally, I mean, everything's telling me you should take Toronto here. Wouldn't be shocked if they won. Obviously, they're the favorites to win this series for a reason. But I'm going to take Ottawa in the battle for, what is it, Ontario? Yeah, I'm going to take the Senators to move on. I'll say in 7. Actually, no, I'll say in 6. I'll say the Senators in 6. The Lightning versus Panthers. This may be the series I'm most excited for. I am 100% a Blackhawks fan, but for some reason, whenever I was little, I just really liked watching the Lightning. The Lightning have always been good my entire life, and the Lightning have always been my second favorite team. And with the Blackhawks not making the playoffs for a while now, obviously they had their cup run where they won what was it, 3 in 5 years. That was great, but since then they really haven't done anything. So I've been a Lightning fan, and I think it's because they just played the Blackhawks in the Stanley Cup one time, and it was a great series. So I've always liked the Lightning. So I'm gonna let my bias take control a little, maybe I guess you could say. But the Lightning are a very good team. The Panthers have been dealing with a lot of injuries. Kachuk, though, I believe that's how you say his name. He's going to be coming back. He's a really good player, but how healthy will he be? What percentage will he be playing at? We don't really know. We know what we're going to get from the Lightning. I think they have a little bit less question marks. I think they get through over the Panthers, but the Panthers are the defending champs for a reason. This series could definitely go their way. Capitals, Canadians. The Canadians get into the playoffs. They were, I believe, the last team to clinch their playoff spot. I'm going to take the Capitals. I think Ovechkin has done enough. Shout out to him. He broke the goals record. He passed Wayne Gretzky, so good for him. But down the stretch, they've kind of been struggling a little bit. They're a very young team besides Ovechkin. But I think they should be fine against the Canadians. I'm not too worried there. I think the Capitals are good enough to get out of the first round. The Hurricanes versus Devils. I've heard that this matchup has kind of been locked in for a while now here in the Metropolitan Division. The Devils have lost, I believe his name is Jack Hughes. I'm pretty sure I got the right guy there. He's not going to be playing. I'm pretty sure he's their best player as well. Don't love that. I'm going to take the Hurricanes for that reason. I've heard they have a really good defense as well, and the Hurricanes have been good for the past couple of years here. So I'm going to take the Hurricanes to move on. Back up to the Central Division, the Jets versus the Avalanche. I picked the Jets last year to go very far. I might have picked them to win it all. I'm not sure. I either picked them to win it all or lose in the Stanley Cup. And they screwed me last year. I'm going to take the Avalanche for that reason. The Avalanche always do good in the playoffs. They have Nathan McKinnon. They have Cale Makar. I like that for them. I'm going to take the Avalanche to move on. I will say in 6 games over the Jets. The Jets, I heard Hellebuck tends to fall off in the playoffs. Maybe he can figure it out. But I don't love that. And the Jets, they're the reason. There's a reason they won the President's Trophy. They had the most points in the NHL this year. But and they have the best defense as well. But I'm going to take the Avalanche. I just think the star power there. They have the playoff. We know what they. I kind of want to wait and see with the Jets. They're kind of like the Maple Leafs, not to as much of an extent. But I kind of want to wait and see. I want to see them do it before I really trust them. I've seen the Avalanche do it before. I'm going to take the Avalanche to move on to the conference finals. The Golden Knights versus the Kings. This is an interesting one. Vegas, always a good team. Ever since they won the Stanley Cup their first year in the NHL, they're always a dangerous team come playoff time. But I like the Kings. I don't know why. I'm feeling a Kings run here. Maybe they just lose to the Oilers for the 4th year in a row. It could definitely happen. When you have McDavid, we saw what they did last year. They lost in the Stanley Cup in 7 to the Florida Panthers. But I'm going to take the Kings over the Golden Knights. I think, defensively they're a very strong team. And then offensively, I've heard they've been picking things up, recently. And I like that for them. I think the Kings get it done. They have the second highest ranked defense, at least on this website, only behind the Jets. And offensively, they're a little bit behind. But like I said, they've been picking it up recently. And they're not, bad. They're above league average. So I'm going to take the Kings to the conference finals over the Golden Knights, I will say in 7. The Senators Lightning. I love, I would like to see this story happen. Maybe the Senators get through, but I just know more about the Lightning. They don't have Steven Stamkos anymore. I did not know that, but they have Vasilevsky still. I know he's one of the best goalies in the league. They still got Kucherov. They still got a lot of guys over there. With that being said, I'm going to take the Lightning to the conference finals. I think they win this series pretty easily. I'll say in 5 over the Senators. The Lightning have really good numbers as well, and they've been really strong this season, all season. The Capitals Hurricanes. I like the Capitals' energy. I'm going to take the Capitals to the conference finals. They got a young squad, and they have some veteran leaders as well. I like that match. The young guys bring the energy. All the stuff with Ovechkin. I think it's a great story. They have the second highest ranked offense on this website that I'm looking at. They have been a little iffy as of recently, but I like them over the Hurricanes. I think they get out of the Metropolitan section here. I think they get to the conference finals to set up a matchup with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now back over to the Western Conference, the Colorado Avalanche taking on the Los Angeles Kings. Who gets to the Stanley Cup Finals? Well, I'm going to be honest. I think it's the Avalanche. I think the Avalanche get it done as the 3 seed, which is crazy. But I don't know, man. I'm feeling the Avalanche get through here. I don't know what's making me say it. But the Avalanche, something about them in playoffs. They always tend to go far. They won the Cup back in 2022, I believe. They have the 3rd highest ranked offense. I think the Kings, they're a very strong defensive team, but I think eventually their lack of offense. Now they have been better recently, but I think eventually it's going to come back to bite them. The Avalanche are more well-rounded, in my opinion, more deep. I think, I like the Kings against the Oilers, the Golden Knights. I think they're maybe deeper there, but against the Avalanche, I think are overall more well-rounded. I've seen them do it before. That's big for me. I've seen them do it. I'm going to take the Avalanche with Nathan McKinnon, with Cale Makar to the Stanley Cup Finals. And then over in the Eastern Conference, the Lightning versus the Capitals. I would love to see this. 2 teams that I feel like are always great. Maybe in the Capitals not as of recent, but they did win it. What was that, like 5, 6? Was that 2018? Or it might have been 2018. So since then they haven't done much, but I remember back when the Blackhawks were good. That was when I really watched hockey. I've kind of slacked off as of recently, but the Lightning were always a really good team. Same with the Capitals. That was the time where like the Penguins were always good. But anyways, getting off topic. Lightning Capitals. I think the Capitals' youth comes back to bite them in the long run. I don't think they can get to the Stanley Cup. I think they could definitely get here, but I think this is probably their ceiling. I think the Lightning get it done. They just have the experience here. And the Lightning, surprisingly enough, they're 1st in offense and 3rd in defense, at least on this website. Maybe I'm not looking at the right thing. Washington ranks 2nd in offense, so right behind the Lightning, but 9th in defense. I think the Lightning are overall the more complete team, and I think they get through over the Capitals. I will say I'll say in 7. I think it goes all 7. And then, did I say Avalanche Kings? I'm going to take the Avalanche over the Kings. I'm going to say in 5. I think the Avalanche. I think all those games could be close, but I think the Avalanche get it done in 5. But that sets up a Stanley Cup rematch from 3 years ago in 2022, where the Avalanche beat the Lightning in 6 games. Who wins this year? I think it's the Lightning. I think they return to glory. I think they get it done. From what I'm looking at offense and defensive rankings. Tampa Bay is the only team inside of the top 3 in both offense and defense. I think they're the most well-rounded team, at least analytically. Maybe not on paper, but I'm a big analytics guy. I'm going to take the Lightning to beat the Avalanche. I'm going to say in 7. I think it goes all 7 games, but I like the Lightning here to get it done. Maybe I'm biased just because the Lightning are my 2nd favorite team. I don't really know why. I was just, when I was littler, I liked their logo. I liked their colors. I don't know, but I'm going to take the Lightning. With that being said, I'm going to take them over the Colorado Avalanche in 7 games. Let me know in the comments who you guys have. Am I an idiot? Probably. Honestly, I haven't watched that much hockey this season, really. When the Blackhawks are good, I watch more, but they've been really bad. Hopefully, Connor Bedard can bring us to the promised land here in the next couple of years, and then I can kind of get back into hockey a little bit more, maybe. But yeah, I'm excited for this playoffs. Usually the Stanley Cup playoffs is when I finally get to understand who all these teams have. But I know the big names, obviously. So yeah, maybe I'm an idiot. I probably am. The Lightning very well could just lose to the Panthers first round. That's what I've heard. That's the series that is so as 50-50 as it gets. So I don't know about taking the Lightning to win at all. They could definitely lose first round. Maybe I'm an idiot. But let me know what you think in the comments. Please be nice to me, obviously. Being pretty transparent here. I'm not the biggest hockey fan in the world. But if you are new around here, make sure you subscribe. We do college basketball, college football, NFL, NBA, and MLB. I'm definitely more knowledgeable in those sports. I can really do good on all those sports. So subscribe if you are new. Turn on the noties. Like this video if you made it this far. But with all that being said, that is going to do it. Enjoy watching the NHL playoffs. The games start later today, so yeah, I'm very excited. And yeah, we should have an MLB video coming out pretty soon. So stay tuned for that one, and thank you so much for watching.